Welcome back as we continue to look at Manifest Destiny and kind of focusing our attention on trails west. Some of us can probably recall some of the famous trails of our nation's history. For those of you growing up, maybe played the video game, the Oregon Trail. And what a great game it was. I think back to having to cross the rivers and, go hunt for food, and maybe you got snake bit and died, or you died of starvation, or maybe there's Native American attacks. But for many of us, that's kind of an early experience that you might remember. Other trails include the California Trail, the Mormon Trail, and other ones that kind of spurred off of these. But between 1840 and 1860, more than 250,000 people made the trek westward over these trails. And to think that the obstacles in the Oregon Trail were actual obstacles that these migrants had to face during the 1840s and 50s. And to think of how long and difficult this journey must have actually have been. To try to put it in perspective, think of it like this. Once you set out west and you begin your journey, on a good day you could travel about 10 miles. And that's if you didn't have to forge a river or travel down muddy trails. Now, if you're traveling 1,500 miles, roughly, it would take you about 150 days, which would be about 5 months. Think about it. Every day you're getting up, you're moving west, you're walking, you run into dangers and trouble, you experience death all around you. Stories of parents dying and their baby being left along the trail that nobody picked up and brought west with them. Countless sad stories written in journals and diaries explain how difficult this trail really was. So regardless if it was the early Santa Fe Trail of the 1840s, where you were looking to try to maybe do some trade, or the most important trail, overland trail, the Oregon Trail, which you may be going up to the Oregon country to look for, farmland and start your new life, or the California Trail with its good weather and seaports. But we also have the famous Mormon Trail, which was maybe traveled upon for a much different reason than the others. To understand why the Mormons made this trek out west, you have to understand a little bit of their history. In 1830, Joseph Smith founded the Mormon religion, which becomes known as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And they have the distinction of becoming the largest religious denomination founded upon American soil. However, as they found a couple of communities in Ohio and Missouri, the other people that weren't Mormons started to look at these newcomers with a kind of a questioning eye and not really trusting them and kind of wondering, questioning different aspects of their lives. And so they kind of run into trouble in these different communities and will look to resettle several times before settling in Nauvoo, Illinois. Now, probably one of their more controversial beliefs was their belief in polygamy or multiple marriages. And eventually, Joseph Smith will actually be arrested along with his brother and eventually killed by an angry mob. And that will lead the Mormons to look to try to resettle yet again. And so what happens next is the Mormons' next leader, Brigham Young, decides to try to resettle in Utah. And in 1846, roughly 12,000 Mormons will make the trek out to the Great Salt Lake, where they will settle. Now, this is actually Mexican territory, so they were looking to, leave the U.S., leave the persecution that they were facing, be able to enjoy religious freedom, and live out their American dream. And so as they move west, they come to the Great Salt Lake, and it was a great success story because it's a very arid land and it's not very hospitable. But through hard work and setting up irrigation, they created this vibrant, healthy, successful community. And they will go on to enjoy their lives and reap the benefits of what they sowed. So, as the Mormons were successful in establishing Salt Lake City with its well planned out and efficient ways, there's hundreds of thousands of other people that made their way westward as well. However, some weren't as successful. And the most infamous group is known as the Donner Party. Now, this party is probably the greatest tragedy of westward expansion, as they were beset by mishaps and misfortune almost their entire distance as they traveled from Independence, Missouri towards California. Whether it was wagons breaking down, people getting injured, or several Native American attacks, all these cost them a lot of lost time. And so they feared that they might get caught in the Rockies and stuck in snow. So, when they heard of a new pass through the mountains that was supposed to save them some maybe 400 miles, they thought they'd chance it and take it. But being that the shortcut didn't really exist, they were eventually caught in an early snowstorm where over 5 feet of snow fell overnight, eventually up to 10 feet total. Now things got so desperate as they were running out of food that by December of 1846, they had to resort to cannibalism. And it wasn't until April of 1847 that the survivors finally make it to their destination.